Today, we're combining epoxy, walnut, and a CNC to make one of my best kept secrets that no one's talking about. This is not a complicated project. This is a beginner-friendly project anybody can do. And today, I'm gonna show you exactly how to do it. This is the CIC Workshop October Kit of the Month, Epoxy Christmas Ornaments. Let's go. This kit includes everything you need to make 6 walnut epoxy Christmas ornaments. It's going to include a roughly 1 foot by 1 foot, ½ inch thick piece of walnut, 12 ounces of epoxy, 3 different colors of pigment, all 3 mixing cups you'll need, plus a large mixing cup, rubber gloves, stir sticks, and the leather string to tie all of these ornaments together, plus this video walkthrough, plus the digital files, and a commercial license to go out and sell these. This is an insane value. So why are you getting this panel of walnut instead of just a board? Well, how I've done these ornaments in the past, I've made these on a massive scale with orders of 1,000 or 2,000 ornaments at a time, and I've glued up these massive panels, stuck them on the CNC, it cut a whole bunch out at once, so I want to relay that way of doing it over to you. And so to hold this down, we're going to just lightly clamp it, and then we're actually gonna have the CNC come and drill marker holes for us that we're gonna come back and put screws down on, because we're going to have to take this off during this process, put it back on, maybe take it off 2 or 3 times, and so we wanna make sure that it's going into the exact same spot. So I will be using a center datum. The required bit for this kit is going to be the 1/8 inch upcut bit. Why? It's because you use an upcut to drill the holes, and we're going to do all the pocketing and all the cutting with it. The 2 optional bits are going to be a 1 inch surfacing bit. The other optional bit is the 1/8 inch baby boy rougher, and we're gonna use that doing the pocketing just to show you how fast it is. This is the digital file you will receive with the kit. I will also have it on Carbide Create as well. Here are the ornaments we will be cutting out today. And honestly, the tool paths are pretty simple. So the first thing we want to do is drill some reference holes. And notice I do have one right here in the center. That is, if you ever get off on your X and Y origin, you at least have a reference of what you marked as the center point on your item. So this first drill tool path is just drilling all the way through the material with an 1/8 inch upcut bit going at these feeds and speeds. Just some simple holes. It's gonna be kind of cool. It's gonna go right on that tape. Now to do the pocketing, you could just keep in that 1/8 inch upcut finisher and probably go around 60 to 70 inches a minute. I'm using the Shapeoko, and so that's what I would do. But I'm gonna put in this baby boy upcut rougher right here, and I'm going to go 120 inches a minute, and I'm gonna go down 0.2 inches each pass to show you what this thing can do, because it's one of my favorite bits, and I don't talk about it, and they're also available on CIC Workshop. The next toolpath is going to be a pocket toolpath, and we will be pocketing out these vectors going 0.4 inches deep using an 1/8 inch upcut, or you can use the optional 1/8 inch baby boy upcut as well. And notice which vectors I do have selected. It is not this one, but this extra overhang right here. And this overhang is important because it makes everything easier when you cut it out at the end. Here are the settings I'm using with that 1/8 inch upcut. If I was using the baby boy bit, I would end up going 120 inches a minute with 60 on the plunge and a 0.2 pass step. So once it's all pocketed out, this is what your first step will look like. So one more thing before we run that pocketing program is once you set your XY origin and drill those holes on the outside, do not change it for any reason. Keep that as your XY. It's going to be very, very important throughout this whole entire video. Now that the pocketing is done, I want you to check one thing before we pull it off the CNC and get ready to do the epoxy, and that is the fuzzies. So the tolerance for fuzzies on this kit is about a 1/16 of an inch or 0.06 inches. So as long as the fuzzies on the inside of these pockets don't stick out a 1/16 of an inch, you're good, let's take it off. Now if they're not, and they're just everywhere, run that same pocketing program again, and it's gonna clean everything up. Whether you run it with a rougher or a finisher is totally up to you. They're both gonna do a lot better job of cleaning up those fuzzies the second time. So for this particular board, I did have to run the pocketing toolpath twice, but the 2 other times I've did this, I only had to run it once. I don't really know why. But now all we have to do is take this off, sand this down right here, blow it out, make sure it's clean of debris. So now we are ready to pour epoxy. We have it sanded, we have it blew out, it's ready to go. Now before we pour, this is the utmost important thing, because once we start mixing that stuff together, we have a timetable we have to work off of. So if you've ever poured epoxy, you know the most important thing is setting everything up. And because we have 3 different colors we're pouring, we're going to have to tape up and make some little dams on this panel. If not, whenever we pour the blue on this snowflake, it's gonna leach over into the tree and you're gonna have a whole bunch of multicolored stuff. So what we want to do at this point is take some masking tape or painter's tape, and we're going to line all of these edges. The next thing we're going to do is put little tape dams right here, and this is depending on how you want to color your ornaments. I'm gonna tape them off this way because I want the trees and everything to be the same exact color right this way. So whenever we pour today, we're going to be using a 1-to-1 epoxy, and this is just a tabletop epoxy, and we're going to pour it in here, and then once that chemical reaction starts, right, once we mix these 2 together, you have about 15 minutes. So make sure you have everything in order before you do so, because what happens is if too much sits too long, it gets hot, and it actually can melt your container. So this is an old pour right here. So make sure you have all your stuff in a row, make sure you're ready to go. And so we're just gonna do a simple 1-to-1 epoxy ratio. If you've never poured epoxy before, it is a lot simpler than all the other YouTubers make it look. I've poured around 100 gallons, so I'm no expert, but I have been around the block a time or 2. So simply, I'm gonna take part B, which is the hardener, and just pour it in this. And once again, all of this stuff is going to be pre-measured for you guys, and so it's gonna be the simplest pour ever. So this is 6 ounces in one bottle and 6 ounces in the other bottle right here. I like to do the hardener first because it's a lot thinner and it mixes easier. See, this resin is a lot thicker right here. And so you can just slowly get it out of the bottle. So just make sure you get all of that part A out because it is pretty thick. Now you should roughly have about 12 ounces at this point, and all you're going to do is just stir until it gets clear. Do not whip, it isn't whipped cream, you ain't baking a cake, just stir it nice and easy. And see, it's gonna turn hazy, and you keep on stirring until it's clear. All right, so it's clear now. I've been stirring it for about 2 minutes, and now I have my cups set up. I'm just going to pour this in there to almost to the top of those ridges right there. So about that much, maybe a little less. So right there. This last cup is not going to get near as much, but that is totally okay. Whatever one you're doing the crosses with can have the least amount of epoxy, and whatever ones you're going to do the snowflakes with need the most amount of epoxy. And now you just take some powder and put it in there. This is mica powder, it's food safe, it's cosmetic grade, yada, yada, yada. It's really good stuff. It's what they use in pigment. All right, so all 3 containers are mixed up. Now we're ready to pour. So we just take that and just pour the epoxy in the ornament. Nothing crazy here. Now I personally like to overflow a little bit whenever I pour because that wood does absorb a little bit of that epoxy. So make sure you're not just level, you're actually overfilling it, hence why we needed the tape dams. And so all we have to do now is just let it dry, make sure it's level, and just walk away. Just walk away. We'll come back in 24 hours and see what it looks like. And boom, it's been 24 hours. The epoxy is cured up. Just kidding, it's been about 3 minutes. The epoxy I just poured is right here, but this is what it looks like when it's done. There will for sure be bubbles that are gonna pop up. Typically, people pop those with a torch. You do not need to do it in this scenario because we're gonna surface it all off and actually go about a 1/16 of an inch into this wood, and that's gonna clear out any of the bubbles. So here's a good one. Here's the one we just poured. Let me show you how to surface it. The easiest is just using a planer. So what you're gonna do, and what I did, as you can see, I planed off the top right there till the epoxy was all off. Then I flipped over the board and I kept running it through till I saw the epoxy on both sides. Now the magic thickness you want to get to is around 0.32 inches, 0.30 inches, somewhere around there. It's the perfect thickness for Christmas ornaments. Now the second way to do it, and the much harder way, is using a surfacing bit on your CNC, but since we are a CNC channel, I'm gonna try it out that way to show you how it's done. Now to surface off this material, we are going to step 2, which is going to be 2 different surfacing tool paths. I actually offset the original vector by a little bit to give us a little bit of wiggle room whenever we're doing this. So we'll be cutting down 0.05 inches with a 1-inch surfacing bit. Here are my settings right here. We will be running a raster with a 90-degree angle, no profile pass, and make sure you do a long ramp. If you are using Carbide Create, since it does not have a ramp function, I did make the bit plunge very, very slow, hoping it still works, but that is something to watch out for if you do not have VCarve Pro. And all this is going to do is surface off the top to take off that epoxy. The next surfacing tool path will be once we flip the material, and that will be with a start depth of 0.05 and a cut depth of 1/8 of an inch. And the reason we do the 0.05 start depth is so we do not have to reset the Z height anymore. Same exact settings right here, and we're doing it in 2 passes, same raster, same long ramp. And that removes more of the material from the back, leaving a nice, beautiful, clean surface. All right, program set up. Now to surface this off, we're just going to be using our 1-inch surfacing bit, and we're gonna be touching off on the top of the material, not on the top of the epoxy. All we're gonna have to do now is just put more double-sided tape, flip it over, and run that deeper surfacing pass. Now remember, we do not need to reset the Z height again because we set the start depth on that second surfacing pass to 0.05 inches, and that's the amount we cut off on the first pass. Hope that makes sense. All right, that last surfacing pass got done. It does make a ton of chips. Now, I want to let you know that you do want to watch it and make sure it doesn't go too deep, so these are too thin, right? So the more careful you can be on that last surfacing pass, the better. If you want to baby it more than I did, definitely do that. Now you should be able to see through a little bit of these ornaments. There might be too much pigment in the blue, so you can't see through it, but the green and the white, like that. Once it's surfaced, the next step is to sand it down, and it's a lot easier to sand down this big sheet than those tiny ornaments. Once it's sanded down, put it right back over those screw holes we used earlier and put it into place. Now before you run that last profile cut, please, please, please make sure you put it back in the exact same position as the program. It has happened to me more times than I'd like to count. I have it flipped a certain way. So just make sure it's screwed down in the right direction. Just please do it. Now for step 3, we're simply going to drill hanging holes and cut the ornaments out. So once we have it screwed back down in place, we're going to simply drill the thickness of the material, whatever that is. So you may have to change this from 0.32 to 0.30, whatever your thickness may be. Same settings from earlier, right here, and just drill some holes. And for that last profile pass, we will be selecting these vectors. Notice I do have some tabs set up. They are 1/4 inch long and a little over 1/16 of an inch thick. I'm doing an outside profile, and I am separating that last pass at 0.01 inches. It just makes that last cut a little bit cleaner. And here are my settings for that 1/8 inch upcut doing that last pass. Nice short ramp, and boom bam, that will cut out your ornaments nice and neat. Before the final reveal, if you have bought all 3 of our monthly kits so far, I want you to comment down below the word 3-peat. Let me know. So to finish up these ornaments, hit the edges with a little bit of 180 grit sandpaper and then put whatever finish you would like on it, whether it's mineral oil, Danish oil, tung oil, you can do spray lacquer, it really does not matter. Then you take that leather string you got with the kit, tie it around there, and these things pop. And I will say that mineral oil that I put on these really made them pop, and it is insane. So I hope this kit opens your eyes to the possibilities with the CNC. I hope you love this October kit of the month. And as always, guys, remember, if you ain't cutting it close, you ain't cutting it right.